Hi guys, good morning. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to start Unit 9, which is the second to last unit of our curriculum. And Unit 9 is about proofs, proving things, okay? In the background I have Bad Bunny. You guys already know how much I love him. One person mentioned, Ms. Zhang, your pen is quite cute. It has a little bunny on it. Is that for Easter? I know Easter passed, right? But no, actually not. My dad bought this pen for me about 2 years ago in China because he forgot to bring me a present. So he got this pen at the airport for $10. So that was my gift. Okay. Anyway, so today let's get into it. How can we prove two triangles congruent by side? Before we get to that, let's just talk about what is congruence anyway. So I'm going to highlight this entire unit. It's about proving things. Are they the same? Are they not the same? What do they have in common? How can we find the missing pieces? It's all about putting the puzzles together. Congruency. It has the word congruence in it. So that means the same, right? What about the same? Because we have so many parts. If we want to prove two things are the same, all corresponding parts are the same. That's just a little bit background information, all right? We talked about corresponding sides, corresponding angles throughout this whole year. We're going to get into that in about 20 seconds. First part we're going to learn, it's about congruence and corresponding parts. When two triangles are congruent to each other, the two triangles have 3 sets of congruent sides and 3 sets of congruent angles. First, we are trying to prove that the sides are equal to each other. When it's about congruent sides, we must talk about corresponding sides. Do you remember how Ms. Zhang always mark her diagram? 1 arc, 2 arcs, 1 strokes, 2 strokes. So this is where it's gonna come in handy. Some people, when they label their diagram, they just label it whatever. They don't really care. But if you don't label it correctly in this unit, you're going to confuse yourself a lot. So let's look at the sides. So you see how AB has 1 mark here and DE has 1 mark over there. When we're talking about 1 mark, that means AB corresponds with DE. So those 2 sides are corresponding sides. So that's why I labeled it with 1 mark. AC corresponds with DF because of 2 marks. You see how they're all at the same position, so they're called corresponding sides. So we're trying to see how many corresponding sides are there. We have one last set, which is BE, BC, and EF. Those are the corresponding sides. Now let's look at the angles. Angle A corresponds with angle D because they're all at the same position. They're all kind of at the left bottom of the triangle. Angle C corresponds to angle F, so they are corresponding angles. Now, angle B and angle E corresponds with each other, so they are called corresponding angles. So if 2 triangles are congruent or equal to each other, then they have 3 sets of corresponding sides and 3 sets of corresponding angles. That's the background information. Let's read it together. When triangles are congruent, the sides and angles that are corresponding parts. So that's basically what we just went over. Note, the order of the letter in the names of the triangle should display in corresponding parts. What that means, this is how we read triangles, in the units before, Unit 5 and Unit 6. If I read triangle ABC, you see how we're rotating clockwise right now, then when you're reading the second triangle, you have to read in the same order. So we call this triangle DEF. Okay? So that's how we read it. Now, let's look at today's main idea. How do I prove two triangles are congruent by side, side, side? We have angles and side in a triangle. We are trying to prove two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So I'm going to... What that means, we're not dealing with the angles. We're only dealing with the sides. Okay? So if three sides of a... Oh my God, can't read today. If three sides of one triangle are congruent to three sides of the other triangle, then two triangles are congruent. What that's saying is one side is congruent to one side, the other side congruent to the other side, and the third side congruent to the third side. If two triangles, each we have three sets of congruent side, then that means the two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Remember, we're not talking about the angles just yet. We're going to talk about it in the next lesson. So let's look at practice 1 and how that look like. Okay? So it has, so I'm going to use color ink. Okay? So number 1 is given to me that one stroke, one mark, one mark. So that means this side is congruent to this side. Let's look at with the 2 marks. This side has 2 marks, so that means this side corresponds with the blue. You see how the blue corresponds with the blue and the green corresponds with the green. And now let's look at the last side. I got 1, 2, 3, and so this side 1, 2, 3. Running out of place a little bit. Running out of place. Running out of space. God. So disappointed in myself. Can't really speak. Sorry to disappoint my followers. My 49 followers. Thank you very much. Anyway, one set of corresponding sides, 2 set of corresponding sides, and 3 sets of corresponding sides. The green, the blue, and the pink. So that means these 2 triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Not bad, right? Okay, so now, before they give us all the information, and then we have to find which one fits. Number 2, we're traveling backwards. They are telling me that these 2 triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit right here. So they tell me that these triangles are congruent. Okay, I know that side, side, side. So now let's figure out what are the missing pieces. I have DZ over here corresponds with XY. So the green corresponds with the green. Okay, so I have 1 set so far. I need 2 more sets. How are we going to figure that out? I'm going to introduce a vocabulary. These 2 triangles share one side, which is XZ. So you could conclude, we could say that XZ is the side that's in both triangles. So I could conclude that XZ, line segment XZ, is congruent to line segment XZ, right? The line segment is equal to itself. Big deal. There's a vocabulary. Only if it's equal to itself, we call it reflexive. Okay? I know it's kind of silly. You'd be like, Ms. Zane, why you bother telling me this? Because I have to. All right? Now, this is my second side. Even though they're the same thing, it still corresponds with each other because even though it's the same side, it belongs to 2 different triangles. So that means XZ is equal to XZ. we're missing one more set. The other set will be dx and xy. So dx is congruent to zy. So that means I have the green set corresponds with each other. They are congruent. xz, because of reflexive, it's also equal to each other. And then we have dx correspond with zy. So these two are congruent to each other. When we have three sets of different corresponding sides, 1, 2, 3, these two triangles are congruent by side, side, side. I know it's a little confusing, okay? But try the homework question. You guys only have 2 questions to do. Now, if you need any help, remember to join me when I have Google Meet, okay? So make sure that you contact me if you need any help. I've been saying that in all my videos. Please do not be shy, okay? Now I'll see you guys in the next video. Here, my $10 pen for my dad. Very lovely. Okay, now goodbye.